We at Palantir want the best thing for this country. That is a true and not plausible statement because obviously I'm a large stakeholder in a company with very specific interests. Okay, so that is point one. Is it good for the country for us to pen test every single program and look, does it work? How well does it work? What are the unit economics of this program? And is it necessary? So is it good? I think everyone would say yes. Is it necessary? I wowould say yes. And I would say it's necessary because in the West, broadly speaking, so you're an expert in France culture, I'm a lay person, but not completely lay person.
Palantir's Alex Karp just exposed the biggest problem in the West. Check this out.
But I am somewhat of an expert in like Germanic stuff, and it is necessary because we have a legitimation crisis in the West. No one plausibly believes the institutions work to the point where if you were spending your own money, you'd keep financing them. And the people, so those institutions have to be pen tested. What are the unit economics of this institution? By the way, this is an inherently progressive view until recently. Progressives want things to work because how do you justify the spend if it's not working? That's the classically progressive position that's been abandoned by the progressives.
If no one believes our institutions work, why are we still blindly funding them? The reality is that without testing their efficiency, we're just throwing money into a black hole. Palantir's approach forces accountability, something that should be non-negotiable. So why are so many in power afraid of transparency?
And so I want those systems and institutions to work because I believe that I will and we will do much better if things work than if they don't. So that's true and maybe not plausible. So now I'll get to plausible and true. It's good for Palantir. It's obviously good for Palantir. If you're in the business of creating value, like Palantir, the history of Palantir basically is we build product, everyone knows it's very good or the best, like PG, which no one even competes against anymore, which is the anti-terror product. And then people have 5,000 reasons not to buy it because they don't like me, because I'm too crazy, because the unit economics are too good and they displace people, or the European version because it's not German and the person who used to run these things, hopefully no more in Germany, Nancy Fraser, is just completely an ideologue, would rather have terror attacks than have Palantir. And so the single best thing that helps my company is meritocracy. Pen test everything. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. We have hundreds of contracts. Maybe, I don't know, maybe there's a contract that doesn't deserve to be renewed. Great. Maybe there's a contract that does deserve to be renewed that gets canceled. Pen test everything. Test the unit economics. Test the unit economics. And unit economics in this case also include general good, like the PG product stops terror attacks and augments civil liberties. So there's double good in there. So, that's why I think these things are structurally. And then I think there's a more subtle thing that's going on in the market, which is interesting, which is we've been saying for 2 years large language models are a commodity.
Palantir's success comes from creating undeniable value, but that also makes it a target. Many institutions aren't interested in the best solution. They're interested in protecting entrenched interests. When a company offers transparency and effectiveness, it disrupts those who rely on opacity and inefficiency.
Of course, we were laughed at. Of course, it's true. And that the way you manage it is a software large language model hybrid, and that there's a lot of value in large language models. America's going to change because if they're actually implemented correctly, you can vastly change the unit economics of a business. By the way, judge, as in the book, judge the company by, and the institution and the people by the fruits they bear. That's how you end up with a rule of 81 in our company, but that's proxy because other companies get that. And then what you see in various announcements recently is people are realizing, oh, maybe large language models unmanaged aren't that valuable. And just like in the DoD, then people are like, well, okay, well, if they're not as valuable, we'll reduce the valuation of everything. What I think at Palantir, and what I would relate to this book, even there's a couple reasons to read the book and many reasons maybe not to, but what I would say is going back to Pareto optimality, product and macro conditions, I am very happy with our position.
Palantir's approach to pen testing institutions should be a no-brainer. If we're investing billions into government programs, shouldn't we ensure they work? The real issue is that many in power prefer opacity because inefficiency allows them to maintain control. The moment you introduce transparency, you introduce accountability. And for those who have built careers operating in the shadows, that's a threat. When systems are tested, inefficiency, waste, and outright corruption are exposed. That's why so many bureaucrats resist this level of scrutiny. They don't want results. They want systems that serve their interests, not the public's. If a program is broken but provides job security for an entire bureaucratic department, why would they be in a rush to fix it? The incentives are completely misaligned. Think about it. If you were running a business and hemorrhaging money on failing projects, would you just keep spending, no questions asked? No, you would analyze, adapt, and cut what doesn't work. So why do governments resist that exact same logic? The answer is simple. Accountability disrupts power. If inefficiencies are revealed, entire agencies might lose funding, and decision-makers could be forced to justify their failures. And let's take this a step further. Palantir doesn't just expose inefficiency, it actively provides solutions to make systems more effective. It doesn't just point out what's broken, it helps fix it. The idea that institutions should resist that shows just how deeply embedded the problem is. The resistance isn't about data privacy, ethics, or national security. Those are just convenient excuses. The real fear is that once you introduce objective, data-driven decision-making, the old ways of doing business become obsolete. But here's the bigger question. Why are we still accepting these outdated, broken systems when better technology exists? Why do we tolerate inefficiency, waste, and poor decision-making when we have the tools to prevent it? The answer is that those in power are comfortable with the current system. The complexity, the bureaucracy, the inefficiency, it's not a bug, it's a feature. It allows governments and institutions to shift blame, evade responsibility, and maintain influence without real accountability. It all boils down to one thing: fear. Those in power fear losing their grip when technology like Palantir forces transparency. If every dollar spent had to be justified, if every decision had a clear data trail, how many politicians, bureaucrats, and defense contractors would be exposed for their incompetence? The real debate isn't whether Palantir is necessary, it's whether we're ready to hold failing institutions accountable. And if we're not, then what does that say about the future of governance? Because the longer we delay real reform, the more we fall behind. The world isn't waiting for us to get our act together. Other nations, other companies, and other innovators are moving forward. If we keep resisting technological progress for the sake of preserving outdated power structures, we won't just remain inefficient, we'll become irrelevant. History has shown us that societies that fail to innovate eventually collapse under their own inefficiencies. The question isn't whether we should adopt better systems. The question is whether we can afford not to.